Hey, how are you?
Good.
Happy Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, isn't it? Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
can't
don't know
believe
that. I don't know
already.
that it makes a difference when you work all weekend, but yeah, it's Tuesday.
I know the days and the nights get a little mixed up.
Hello,
Um,
Sandra. I see someone saying hello.
oh yeah, hey, that's Kim. And yep, the audience is growing. I'm really
Am I
excited to
growing?
have everybody on today. And before we jump in, I'd like to take a minute. Joe, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about you, because you've got a lot of experience that people should hear about.
Oh, thank you. Yes. All right. So my name is Joe Diener. I'm the sales manager for the South Tampa office here in beautiful sunny Tampa. I, listen, I started in sales in 1979. That's a long time ago. I worked for a company called More Business Forums. I worked for them for 25 years. I got into real estate about 20 years ago and worked on some teams. And then in '07, I decided my daughter had moved down to Florida in '05. And I said, you know what? I can sell real estate in Florida. So I decided to move to Florida. I got online and did my license on Florida, like a lot of people do, and started down here in '07. And I worked for a different broker until 5 years ago and started with Century 21. So, and I've been here and I've been the sales manager since I started back. I was a sales rep for a little bit and then became manager in October of 16. So, yep. So, and I'm
Very
glad to
nice.
be here. And Kathleen, you have so much experience.
Yeah, I've been here since the earth was cooling and spores were coming out and aliens were disappearing. No, I'm just kidding. For those of you that don't know me, my nickname is Kat. I'm an active attorney, mediator, manager of Longboat Key and Sarasota. I was a prior state prosecutor with the state attorney's office for 30 years, and I was very fair. I wasn't just slamming people to be slamming them. But anyway, long story short, I have a lot of fun now mixing law with real estate. This is something I wanted to do for many years, and I've been with Beggins for 10 years and very happy. This brokerage is very much like the smaller brokerage that I started with. It was a family-owned brokerage, and that's what drew me here. I needed to find my tribe, and I have my tribe, and my tribe puts up with me. So we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have fun. We have a great group. Go Sarasota! Anyway, not to keep everybody waiting, but welcome to everyone. I see, oh, we got a lot of people on today. Oh, I'm so happy. This makes my day. Okay, they must know it's my birthday.
They want to know how to get listings, right?
We do. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the bulletproof listing process. Now, just so you know, we're not bringing guns to the presentation and no bullets. It's just an expression. Relax. We're okay. It's not the wild, wild west. So get your cup of coffee. It's pumpkin latte time. I know it's Florida and people are like, no, I don't want pumpkin yet. Well, October is just around the corner. So grab your coffee and let's start rocking and rolling, shall we? We're going to talk.
Let's do it.
Now, what we're covering today is a bulletproof listing process. And what that is to manage expectations. Well, what exactly does that mean? You know, Joe, and I know when you're preparing for a listing throughout the marketing to closing, we focus on what? How to position
that seller.
Yeah. That seller. That's right. And it's not on our emotions that we're going to be doing this from. It's going to be an analysis of comparable sales. And we're going to get into that in just a bit.
Do you know why they need us, Kat? Because we don't have emotion to the property, right?
That's right.
It's all about the numbers to us. It's all about the numbers, and that's why they need us too.
Absolutely, because you know it's hard for sellers sometimes if they've been in that home for 30 years, they've raised their family, they got the little tick marks when their kids were growing. I don't mean ticks on a dog. We're talking about up on the wall. You know, as kids are growing, we all did that. You know, your little ones are growing and the stages of life. And sometimes it's a hard choice. Sometimes it's a divorce. Sometimes it's death. Sometimes they need to downsize. Or sometimes they need to upsize depending on the size of the property. So there's a whole lot of things going on when a seller's getting ready to sell. And that's why this is so important that we ask the right questions up front and we go through the steps, the process that we've laid out, we're about to lay out for you, because you're going to find this to be not only extremely helpful, but it works time and time and time again. And as we go through scripts and things like that, you're going to find that you'll start absorbing it as you keep doing it. And after a while, you don't even realize you're using a script because it's become automatic. But when I say script, it's not saying Jack Jones, ABC liquor store. No, it's going to have more fluidity, if you will, than that. It's not going to be stiff. So we're going to go through that. We're going to do some role playing and have some fun. Just like the Kelley Blue Book tells you what, how to buy a car, price of a car. Well, that's what we do with our spa. Another thing that we look at, and I'm sure Joe will agree with this too, logistics, right, Joe?
Yes. You know, it's not. I always love it when I walk in, the buyer and the seller says to me, "My neighbor's house sold for this." Okay. And it may have been a good price, but that seller had replaced the roof, or replaced the hot water heater, replaced the air conditioner, and my seller sitting in front of me has all original stuff. Yep. So yeah, so it's two houses are never alike.
No, they're absolutely not. Each home, and even in case law, is considered to be unique up to itself. That's why case law is so particular about real estate. Now, as far as our tools, what tools do we have? We use, what do we call it? A spa. We're going to take your seller to the spa in the gym, and we're going to throw them in the shower. No, we're not. That's not what we're doing here. It is our subject property analysis. And it's good to explain that, because the first time you see that, you're like, I'm going to the gym with my seller. Why? You know, that was what I thought the first time I saw it, but that's my brain.
You know, Kat, and this is, you know, when we look at it a little bit later, it's a pretty detailed piece of paper and it really makes you sit down and look at the subject property compared to other properties. But it also shows the seller how much work you did to help them come up with the price. And it's your skin in the game. And it's kind of like, I was very amazed the first time I ever used it when I came to Century 21, how well it was received by the seller, and they could see how much thought process went into comparing their property with other properties. So
you're showing your value. You're showing your value. You're showing how the analysis was put together. And we're the only brokerage that has this tool. So that's 3 strikes we're in, not 3 strikes we're out.
Correct.
When we're using the spa, we're going to see this in a minute, so it won't seem like some kind of arcane, some kind of thing that, you know, that's intangible. We want to always be able to see what we're working with, and we're going to get to that in just a few. But we're also positioning our sellers like beans on a shelf. Beans. Think of bush beans and that dog. How many people on here know that commercial? And it's eye level, and it's the best position of beans. When you go to buy baked beans, I bet you how many people, there's 60 people on here, I bet 59 of them are going to go for the bush beans, unless the other 49 want to make them from scratch, which I don't know about you, who has time. But it's positioning.
You pay more for that shelf space, being in that center position, right?
Right, right. And to get to that center, what do? We're going to help the seller get there. We're going to talk about pre-loved inspections. We're going to talk a lot about a lot of things that are get the seller not only a price that they want, but go above that price, because we're going to make sure we give them what? The tools they need to get there. The Beggins listing process, this is a wonderful slide because it gives you a synopsis at a glance. We're going to do pre-qualification. We're going to ask questions. We're going to set the preview appointment. Joe, you want to read the rest of those out?
Sure. So we set the pre-qualification, confirm the preview. It's always good to say, hey, Bob, I'm coming over at such and such a time. Is that good? Get your listing, your pre-listing package ready, because we really need to make sure that they realize what all the tools that we have, and we want to bring all that with us, and you can find those on 21 online. Set the presentation time. You want to be able to confirm that. Make sure you put it in your phone so you've got it written down too. Perform the pricing, the strategic analysis, get that ready, and take some time to do that. So make sure you don't kill yourself and make the presentation too quickly, because then you won't have time to do that spa. Confirm the presentation with the C21 BE video. Kat, you know me and my letters. I have an email already set out, pre-done, and said, hey, it's been great to talk to you. We're going to meet at this time, and here's the link to the video, and it's already done. So you know you're doing this all the time. Create some things that you don't have to recreate the wheel every time you do a presentation.
Absolutely right. Your letters are spot on. Since I've known you, they're very effective. They're very organized, especially when you're working with people that are relocating from other states or military. I know we have that coming up later on. I think today we're going to be talking more about the listing portion, but
Right.
other classes are going to be talking about military relocation and so forth. And it's
Right.
really important to keep that in mind, to have those letters, because oftentimes a lot of our military folks only have a few minutes to really look at those emails. So those letters just give them exactly what they need, spot on.
Yep. So you have your listing letter. Make sure you create some letters, you know, for setting up the appointment, and then also after the listing appointment. Okay. So
Absolutely.
now we're on to the. I just unplugged myself. So go ahead. So
That's okay. We will keep you going, Joe. No problem.
there we
So
go.
we're going to talk about the SPA and the listing presentation script. Now, a lot of people are going to be scratching their head going, what's the listing presentation script? What is that? Well, it teaches you how to build the framework for the meeting. It gives you the tools, the nuts, and the bolts to get you ready for that meeting and get you down precisely to make sure the parties that need to be there, both parties, if husband and wife, that are decision makers, making sure they're there, making sure that they've had an opportunity to take a look at the video that we send them. And we'll also be doing what's called mirror matching. Now, what's that? Well, it's not holding a mirror up in your face and looking at yourself. It's reflecting back to that person, that seller that you're talking to. You're giving them back that same information, not because you think you're a parrot. It's because you're showing that you're engaged. You're going to put those things into writing to commit to memory, as well as recapping what they've said, so that the seller can see you're genuinely interested and you are making notes of what's important to who, not us, the seller. It's
Right.
all about the seller.
Right.
That's why we take notes during the conversation and the engagement. So, and we can also show that the seller is not only communicating with us, but we're indirectly communicating back with them by making that extra step. So we're going to do a little role play. And Mr. Diener, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me over.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
I want to take just a few minutes of your time. And before we get started, where would you like to sit? Or is the kitchen okay? The kitchen table okay for you?
Oh, let's go to the kitchen table. We can sit comfortably there.
That sounds wonderful. Now, Mr. Diener, do you like to be called Joe? What are you most comfortable with?
Call me Joe. That's fine.
Okay, Joe. I didn't want to be disrespectful. Okay,
No.
Joe, I wrote down 3 important questions for you. And if I could go over this with you briefly for
Sure.
your marketing needs, is that okay?
Absolutely.
And Joe, have you absolutely decided to sell your home?
Oh, yes. Have to go. Have to leave town.
Okay. And will you position your property to sell versus the competition, or are we going to position the property just to sit on the market?
Oh, no. I want to be competitive in the market for sure.
Wonderful.
Sell it quickly.
Wonderful. And I want to just take a moment to go over the questions we asked over the phone.
Sure.
Now, you said you're moving, Joe. I want to make sure. You said you're moving to France to complete your PhD.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Would you like some wine, Kat?
Oh, that would be so wonderful. Yes, thank you.
I drink so much, I decided to get a PhD in wine tasting. So yeah.
That's incredible. You're going to have such a wonderful experience. I can't wait to see your thesis. And you said you'd like to be there by January of next year. Is that right?
Yes,
for New Year's?
That is correct. New Year's.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, New Year's in France.
I see snapshots of your pictures of where you're going to go, and it looks like a wonderful wine and cheese event that you just got done hosting. That's beautiful.
It looks too pretty for January, but yes, that's where, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And we talked about your property, Joe, in Tampa, and I think you said it's $250,000 is where you would like to price your property?
Yes, it's just a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath home in Tampa, but I think I can get that for it.
Okay. All right. And you got a written payoff, and I think you said there was a 0 balance. Is that correct?
That's right. I paid it off a few years ago.
Fantastic. Okay, that sounds wonderful. And as far as seller financing, I think you said you don't want to hold papers, but
No.
cash and conventional will be okay?
Cash and go.
Okay, all right, yes, we like cash too. Okay, that
Yes,
sounds
yes.
good. All right, just confirming, I want to make sure I have everything down right. And did you have an opportunity to watch the presentation that I sent you?
Oh, yes, it was very good and very informative. I
Did you
liked
have
it.
any? Thank you. I'm glad that was very informative. Did you have
Yeah.
any questions of what you saw in the video?
I just didn't realize how big Century 21 was and how much you had to offer. It was rather astonishing.
Well, we do have extensive advertising because, as you know, it takes a lot more than just putting a stick in the yard with a sign hanging from it to sell a property.
Oh, I
As
bet.
you probably know, 85% of most buyers see their homes on what? On the internet and social media. And we have over 800 websites plus multiple social media sites that we will be advertising your property on. So I also included that in the presentation for you so you could see that.
Okay.
And we have multiple offices throughout the state. So any of our agents, if they're working from North Tampa all the way over here to Sarasota and Bradenton, they have an office they can go into with the clients to be able to access whatever they need to help that client and to help you get your property sold.
Awesome.
So Joe, really there's two issues that we look at today: your motivation to sell your property and the price we set your property. And it's important that you understand these are just the only two steps, really, issues in selling real estate today. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yes.
Okay, just so we're clear, I wanted to make sure that. And Joe, do you want C21 Beggins to handle the sale for you?
Yeah, I would, Kat. You come very highly recommended by my friends, so I would like to use you.
Thank you. That means a lot to me because I wake up every morning, put feet to the floor, and I'm happy to do what I do. And it's all about helping our sellers get the highest and best price and sold in a time frame that works for the sellers. My whole goal is to work for you, with you on all your goals. And at the end of the presentation, one of the three things will happen. We will be able to go over the agreement, the price and terms, and we'll look at our strategic price analysis together so we can see how we get there. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, Joe, this is a strategic price analysis. And
Wow.
this is this is really wonderful because what we have here is we'll have, of course, your name is here, our agency. And what we do is we put in a comparable address, which is your address, your square footage, the year it was bought, built, beds, baths, and so forth. And then we compare to what buyers paid for the property. So as you go across here, this is important information for you to see. You'll see this particular property was listed at $274,900. It sold for $283 because it had new upgrades with new windows, roof, AC, private pool, spa, gas range in the kitchen, laminate floors, and so forth. Now, there was some dated floors, and the guest bath was not updated. Then as you go down to each one, you can see the differences. And the reason why this is important is when we look at your home, we can look at this and see how does it compare, apples to apples, oranges to oranges. And each has
that makes a lot of sense to me. I like especially what you listed here are the differences on the houses because, you know I've upgraded. I keep my house upgraded, so I've got all new floors, a new AC, new roof. So does that really add value to my house compared to somebody else's?
Well, as far as advertisement is concerned and valuation, now roofs are considered to be maintenance. However, having a new roof will certainly make your house sell a whole lot faster. I'm going to make a notation of these things just real quick.
Yep. So I did a new roof last year.
Okay, wonderful.
And a hot water heater the year before that.
Okay.
It's a tankless hot water heater.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, did I say AC? AC was.
No, you didn't. You got a new AC?
Also last year.
Is that a Linux?
It's a Carrier.
Carrier. Nice. Inside and out, matching set?
Yes, both. Yeah.
I know it might sound silly that I asked that, but you'd be surprised how many times people mishmash those.
Yep. No, they're both put in at the same time. I did an upgrade. I did 17 SEER. So
nice.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your property. What else did you get a chance to do in the way of upgrades?
Well, when I moved in 3 years ago, I redid the floors and all the kitchen, so that's all new.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
so
What
yeah.
type of flooring?
It's the tile floor, you know, the wood looking tile floor, the porcelain
Oh, the
tile.
plank floors, the plank
Yes,
flooring?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice, very nice. Well, when we look at your property and you do have upgrades, we look at what buyers can pay and what buyers did pay. Now, we don't have any expires in this market just because it's moving so quickly. So you can
Yeah.
see the 5 that we have here, what the averages are, and similar to some of the work that you've had done.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to come down to our actives and solds. Now, what's the least expensive home that we are competing with that you see on this list?
Well, I wish I could see it.
Okay, looks like 240,000.
I'm gonna make it bigger here on my page. There we go. Okay.
Okay,
Was that 250?
the lowest one looks like 230,
There you go.
property number 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe, take a look to see which one is the most expensive one that has sold.
It's going to be is it the 53, 52?
It looks like 283, address
there
number
you go.
3.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and you said you wanted to be at what range?
Well, it looks like compared to some of those, maybe I'm underestimating the sale of my house.
Pretty good news, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, compared to what other people sold it for and what they put in it.
And it's very similar. See how much you put in?
Yeah. So maybe, you know, we can get more for mine than I'm thinking. I'm okay with that, Kat.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
I don't want it to hang around, but I want to get as much as I can for it.
I don't blame you. So based on what you see, what price are you most comfortable with?
Oh, I would say in the 280s, right?
Looks like it based on the upgraded roof, AC, and you have a private pool as well and a spa, and you've updated your flooring with the ceramic plank as opposed to laminate. So that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think you found your price.
I think so. Now, Kat, what do you think? You think I'm going to get multiple offers?
Well, I believe so in this market. We are seeing multiple offer situations. And while we talk about that, we have the Florida bar contracts that we use so that you know that we're not cooking up contracts in the back room. The Florida bar contracts are approved by the Florida Bar and the Florida Board of Realtors. So that gives you peace of mind that you have standardized contracts. So we will get together and do the listing.
Okay.
And we'll send that right over. Now, while we're talking about strategic price analysis, just as a brief recap, and you'll be able to get a copy of this too after the presentation, the strategic price analysis puts your home side by side with the other recently sold properties in your neighborhood. And the differences is you're going to be pointing out not only in the listing itself, but in what's called a feature sheet, all the upgrades and all the wonderful things you've done to that property so that you can stand out amongst the competition. We also have professional photography that we use, and we also have drone photography, depending on the type of property and the location. You may or may not want to use drone, but it really makes a difference, particularly when you're dealing in an area. Let's say you're selling a piece of land without a home. You really want that drone photography because it's going to show the surrounding beaches or lakes or whatever you have going on in that neighborhood so that people can see how they can use that land maybe more than one way. Because a lot of times when people are looking for land, they're looking at it for different uses. They're looking at it for different reasons in mind. They might want to put an assisted living center there. They might want to know if it's mixed use, or they might want to put their dream house there. Now, the next step that we go into is so much fun. Preparing the home for market sale. You know, Joe, if you would you like to go through the pre-loved inspection? Talk a little bit about that.
You know, this is really a very important process, and especially when you have a home that's older, not necessarily a 10-year home, but when you get into a home, especially in South Tampa, where they're 30, 40, 50 years old, and you have somebody that's lived there for a long period of time, but it doesn't have to be that. All right, I'm going to enter a story here real quickly. I had a house out over in not here in Tampa, and it had been sold 2 years ago, and then it went back on the market. My buyers were buying it, and we went in, of course, did the inspection. And in the inspection, we found that the electric panel had been recalled.
Like a Zenko or?
Yeah, it's one of them. It's been a number of years. I don't remember which one. But so when we presented, we wanted those replaced. Typically, that runs around $1,200. And but because of other issues, and they had to run different service, it ended up costing the seller $4,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Maybe there was aluminum wiring.
They had to run additional service to the house because there wasn't enough service. And of course, the seller was very upset at the listing agent, because we all thinking it's going to be about $1,200, and it comes in at $4,000. And of course, they were confused because they had just bought the house 2 years ago, and it wasn't called out. So, you can never depend on another agent's or another inspector's inspection, or that the house was just turned over a couple of years ago and would have had an inspection. So, I always try, when it's an older home, to have it. It doesn't matter how long they've been in it, to have it inspected prior to. And that's just a short story, because now that seller is out $4,000. They weren't expecting $3,000 of that, right? So
Exactly.
yeah. So it's better to pay that $500 or $400 to get it inspected ahead of time and know what you're. And guess what? They could have advertised that house as new electric panel, right? And
right.
It would have been an asset to the selling of the house, rather than just the old electric. So,
well, that's why it's so important to get a pre-loved inspection, because a lot of times during pre-listing, you'll find during the inspection, perhaps like in Joe's case, the ampage wasn't enough for the house. They didn't have enough coming in for additional appliances to be added to the property. Maybe they had enough at that time when the home was built, but it just wasn't. It's not enough for today's times with computers and everything else that we're adding on. You're eliminating problems, doubts, potential roadblocks. By knowing what issues exist, you can address them. And the seller may only pick the ones that he feels or she feels is the most important to him or her, the most critical ones. They may not do every little nitpicky thing, and that's fine. But as long as the most important things are done, that makes a difference. And I think we see somebody in the chat. Let's see.
Yeah, they're telling me I'm too easy on you, Kat.
Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, we're getting to it.
You have to up my game here.
Yeah. He wants to get the house sold, and my friends recommended me. So there you go.
Yeah. So let's talk about roof. Okay. Again, they're critical questions to ask. We need at least 3-year minimum roof life left to get insurance here. And boy, did I learn a couple weeks ago, I got a lecture on roofs. There's a lot of insurance companies now that are not going to insure if the roof is older than 10 years.
That's correct. Or 15. Yeah. It's not 15 anymore.
Yeah. So now you've got a group of insurance companies saying, if it's over 10, I'm not. Now you're stuck with this smaller group of insurers that are 10 and up, and then after that, you even get, now you're into citizens, right? So
right.
You really, and that's where you get your 3-year minimum roof life. So you got to be careful. Oh my God, flood zones. I've been lecturing buyers for 2 years now not to buy in a flood zone. Okay, because of the uncertainty of what insurance is going to be. And right now the rates are going up, and I'm not encouraging them not to buy, but warning them that their rates could go up substantially with the with the new flood rates.
And I do have an article on a couple of slides up too, just to go over that briefly and how they're implementing that in an incremental type of approach. Yes.
Right. Right.
And
And of
just like
course, the panels I talked about earlier with the electric panels, plumbing. Oh my goodness. You know, if the house was built in the
prior to
70s,
1975, right?
you've got polypropylene piping issues. You've got aluminum wiring issues if you built in the 70s, because of during the Vietnam War, copper was scarce, so they decided to do wiring in houses with aluminum wiring, which arcs and causes fire. So they have to pigtail everything at the switch plates and stuff. So, you know, those can be, and by the way, you know, if I take off an electric box, I'm not going to know if it's aluminum or not. I'm not an electrician, but there are issues that an inspection's going to flag if you have a pre-loved inspection done, if you have that issue.
And they also look to see if perhaps some homes built prior to the 70s, or even as old as maybe 100, 200 years old. We see a lot of that with the bungalow homes in South Tampa as well as Seminole Heights. Clay pipe is a big issue that comes up. So
Yes.
you have a clay pipe, I'm not clay, I meant to say
Cast
cast
iron.
iron. Clay was prior to the cast iron, I misspoke. But you can get a scope done of those pipes to make sure that in fact that they've either been relined or replaced.
I had a friend in Jacksonville who was buying a house that still had knob and tube wiring in it. So,
Yeah, I bought one of those up north.
yeah.
Had
So
all the wiring redone.
but you
Yeah.
want the seller to do that. You don't want to do that when you move in or whatever. So
Yeah. Well, this was out of an estate sale, so we knew what we were getting into. It's a whole different entity.
yeah, little ball game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
Oh, permits. Oh, I love this section. You know, that open, expire. Now, we all know if something is open and it's been open for a period of time, the counties will close them out. You can, depending on what kind of permit it is, they'll close some of them out. So, but you know, the final permit, God, we have a lot of those where, you know, they put up the air conditioner and put in a new air conditioner and no one called for the final permit. We get a lot of that, right? So
that's true.
It's good to have, and you know, it's not hard to do, but the person, you know, who owns the house has to be around to have them come. You know, if it's something they have to get inside, the county inspector has to get inside to make sure it was done right. And they go, oh, I don't care, and they don't call them. What difference does it make? The air conditioner's running. Right.
Yeah,
so,
no, they have to come out and for that particular time when that permit was pulled, according to that time frame, will be what's going to be evaluated for the air conditioner. We had this happen to us to a house in Apollo Beach. There was a supposedly going to be a shed placed on a piece of concrete pad that was in the back of the house. It was never done. The permit was still open. So when the inspector came out, he saw that the house had been repainted and replastered. He thought there was another building put on there because one of the buildings was the pool room, had never been on the property appraiser's record. So he thought, he was pretty convinced that we put one on there. I'm like, no, come look at the floor. No, this has been here for a long time. Had I not been there as the owner to make sure they understood it, they would have tried to nail us with a new constructed building on the property when that's not what happened.
right.
So it's really good to be there as the owner to guide them, to let them know, no, this building's been here. We just had it painted. It looks fresh and nice. That doesn't mean it's a brand new building.
You know, it's always good when you're doing that initial call, you know, when you're talking to them over the phone, you know, what improvements have you made to the house since you've lived there?
Right.
Because, you know, Kat, I told you I had a new air, new hot water, new whatever. I would have gone and pulled as a listing agent, I would have gone and pulled permits to make sure that those things had permits on them. Because, you know, I could be Joe Fix-It and go out, oh, I'll put in the new hot water heater. It's easy, just unscrew a couple things and stick it on, you know? And all those become issues when you go to sell, pretty much.
Yep. And key point here is a contractor out of business and the builder inspector cannot help, you'll have to hire an engineer to come out and do that analysis.
Yeah, and
it's not cheap.
not cheap, and it can take a while, and depending on how much work was done and how it was done, they can make you take off drywall and stuff like that to see behind walls, and that's just not a pretty thing. There was a question here, Kat, what are the 4 points we must have talked about? 4-point inspection.
Oh yeah, tell them the 4 points, Joe.
So 4-point, we're certainly talking about the roof. In a 4-point inspection, the roof is one of the things that has to pass. Then you have electric. There can't be any double taps or unsafe electrical feet, wiring exposed, things like that. Plumbing, you got to look at, they want to know the plumbing is working, there's no leaks, and I'm missing an electric and plumbing, air conditioning. And they want to know, the life of the air conditioner and the heating system. And so they're asking for the 4 points are the big ticket items of a house, right? Or I shouldn't say big ticket items, but they're the expensive things if something goes wrong that will incur a payout, right? So if the roof leaks or piping bursts or something like that, that all has to do with insurance. And that 4-point inspection is not, it is for the insurance company. It is not for the bank. It's for the insurance company.
Correct. And then of course, as they're doing the inspections, as we talked about, the sellers do decide repairs that are necessary. This helps effectively get the seller ready for a home sale. And when we do property preparation and we help the seller out, we don't tell them to clutter your house. We nicely say, well, let me help you organize your home in a way that the buyer feels like it is their home. I always tell my sellers, when you're getting a home ready, you want it to feel sort of like a hotel room. What does a hotel room feel like? Spacious, clean. I can put myself into that room, put my pictures and put my things in there. If you have too many,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I said what I've done a couple times when I've had to explain to sellers how to prepare, I pulled up a current listing and I pre-do it so I know what I'm doing, right? And pull up a listing in their neighborhood that got a lot of money and go through the pictures with them and show them, oh, now see how they staged their kitchen. Look, they have a lot of, you can see all their countertops. They took everything off. So sometimes telling them and showing them a picture is better than saying, get all that crap off your countertop, right?
Yes, and political paraphernalia, put it away. Paraphernalia that's, yeah, we don't know.
Off the wall, you know. Oh, yes. And then there's the other issue, Kat. My grandmother's chandelier, you know, that's not included in the house, and I want to take that with me. When I have sellers that have really very particular items that have something that are memorable, I tell them before we take pictures and list it, take it down, go to Home Depot, buy the $86 chandelier and put it up, because grandma's chandelier needs to be put away now because we don't want to be fighting over it.
Oh, no, you've seen that happen.
Oh, my own house selling, they argued over the fireplace poke and broom and stuff. They were like, oh, that comes with a fireplace. I'm like, it's furniture, but it's a $40 thing, so go ahead and have it. But it was a big hoo-ha-ha at closing because that wasn't left.
It's not $40 anymore for those accessories.
No, for sure it's not. But
fireplace for brass.
But it was a gift from my father, so it was kind of it meant something to me. But it was like,
sure,
all right, it's here's $50. Go buy a new one.
Yeah, so, no, take it out.
Yeah.
And make sure if there's something that you can't take out, indicate in the listing, and in the listing agreement does not convey. Cover your bases. That can't emphasize that enough. Make a list. Go through the list with the seller. Okay. Well, just to recap, because sometimes sellers think they told you the washer and dryer doesn't convey, and they didn't. That's why note taking is so critical when you're talking with your seller to list the home, to get it ready for market. You want to make sure anything personal. Sometimes there's 2 sheds on the property and they want to take one of them. Believe it or not, they do. Sometimes they do.
That's why that listing agreement where it says appliances that stay is really important to fill that in correctly. because you don't want to be paying for a washer and dryer.
I always go over it with my seller. Here's page by page. It may take a little longer, or we can do it on the computer together, either or, but we go over it together. And I haven't had one come back to bite me ever because of being thorough. I might take a little bit longer, but I'd rather do it now up front than have pain on the backside. Literally on the backside.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a comment about repiping and stuff like that in here. They did it without permits and they didn't pay the contractor. I mean, this is tough. I mean, people do a lot of things on the side, you know, and I even when I got my hot water heater here, the guy goes, I'll give you this price if you don't want a permit and this price if you do want a permit. What do you mean? Yes, I want a permit, you know. Right. And by the way, I didn't hire that guy because I didn't want someone who was going to be like that doing my hot water heater. So
it's a big red flag because sometimes when these people don't want a permit, you know why? Because they owe the county a bunch of money on past work they've done, or they don't have a good relationship with the county, or they've never even filled out an application to do work in that county. Like in Sarasota, when you come over here to do air conditioning work, I think in most counties this is true. You got to fill out an application through the county, get approved and all that. You can't just come over and start working. That's why when you have people that are servicing listings from other counties that don't know this county, or just the same for you, it's very important that those things are known up front.
Yep. Okay.
So, documents that we do use.
Disclosures.
Sure, disclosures. Real important note here on HOA docs. You don't want to upload the docs into your listing. What you want to do instead is give them a link to the HOA and a link to the association. And the reason why we don't put the docs in there, and I know our broker's going to be very happy to hear this, is because sometimes there are addendums, sometimes there are amendments, sometimes there's multiple documents that have been filed since the origin of those HOA docs and the seller doesn't have it. And you don't have it. If you put them in there and the buyer's agent, the buyer depends on that and doesn't get anything else, we have a problem.
We become the source of the information as opposed to the link is the source of the information.
Correct, correct. We don't want to be the primary facilitator of that source, because if there turns out that there's a rental restriction or a vehicle restriction and the buyer bought the property based on what they saw in those docs, and they didn't know there was an amendment in there that stated otherwise, you've got yourself a problem, damages. So that's why we do that. Yep. Home warranty, this is important. Home warranties as a seller, absolutely. As a seller myself on several properties, I always had home warranties on there. It's peace of mind. You pay it up front, but then when there's a problem 2 years down the road, they had that home warranty, they renew it, and the appliances get fixed for a very low fee, $75, I think it is, for a house call. It's fantastic. Paramount Title, our preliminary title report. Now, if we think there's going to be issues with permits and things like that, it is a great opportunity to get a preliminary title report. And this way we will know what issues, if any, are out there. And on another note, if there's a trust or the sellers are deceased, make sure that you get a copy of the death certificates, copies of the trust or documents, because this is critical to know who's signing off on the document. Title will need that. And as well as you will need it as far as the listings is concerned. If you have a durable power of attorney that's going to be signing for that listing, you need to see that durable power of attorney. You need to know there really is one that exists, because people do have good intentions.
And who has the right to sign, right?
Exactly, exactly. Or you may see the tax and the deed, there's two people on the deed, but all of a sudden there's only one person showing up for the listing. You have to, you know, tactfully, before you meet with that person, you're going to have an idea there was either a death, because you can go into the clerk records and you can research names and it'll come up more often than not. Or you tactfully have to ask, I see there's one person on here. Tell me a little bit of what's happening with the title of the property. This way you're not, you know, coming out and having to say that D word, which is so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I had one not too long, well, several years ago, where it was the mother was in a nursing home, so there was a power of attorney, and it was two sisters and a brother on the deed, along with a trust. So we had the three children and a trust listed, and then And then when I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, you know, all right, who's Mary? You're Mary. Okay. You're you're the power of attorney. Who's Betty? And then who's Michael? Well, Michael was our brother and he died. And I'm like, well, is there probate been done? Oh, no, he didn't own anything. So there's no probate. I'm like, yes, he does. He owns a third of this house. So it totally messed up the title. So we couldn't list it until they straightened it all out because the title was clouded and who could actually sell. And of course, the brother who died had a daughter. Okay, so then his share of that house goes to her. So, I mean, that all had to be cleared up. And they're like, oh, we'll pay her something. I'm like, no, unfortunately, that's not the way it's going to work.
Yeah,
so,
without the right instruments and without the right trust instruments directing and with the will directing, that does create quite a bit.
It was a mess. So, yeah. But you don't know that until you're sometimes sitting in front of people asking questions like, who are these people? You know, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, it's a good thing to bring up. And just as a habit, when I get ready to do listings, I always go straight to the deed, clerk of court. I look to see who's on it. I download a copy of it into my loop. And if I see that there's only one person that's communicating with me, I go to the clerk of court and I look under civil, probate. I look to see if there's any recent filings for a probate or a will, because if it's just a will that's been filed, then I know there's going to have to be administration and so forth. And we're not going to get into all of that, but that's what our attorneys are step in to help us with. So just so I have a heads up of which way I'm going, or it could be a divorce. And if I'm so lucky, I can get an access of the divorce papers, but most of the time not, because that's confidential. So, but there will be something in there that shows an order at least, so that I know what I'm dealing with. I like to do as much upfront legwork as I can. So when I sit down with that seller, I'm at ease, they're at ease, and then these questions come up easily, as opposed to being a surprise to either one of us.
Right. There's a question here about attachments in the MLS for 3-day right of refusal. Remember, there's a difference between HOA and condominium. They're handled right, Kat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the condominium documents have changed, and those are updated in your loop. You will always upload that in there. It came out in March of this year. They've changed it, and it explains how records can be accessed, what records, and what the steps are to acquire any records that you're interested in as a condo owner. So yeah, that of course you do put in there, and you're going to put in your HOA docs as far as the addendums. What I was talking about was the actual HOA declarations, the covenants. Those you don't put in there, because the seller will provide what they have, and if they don't have anything, the HOA will be the one that you're going to go to, pay that fee, and you'll get all the docs and the amendments, as well as rules and regulations, frequently asked questions. All of that will be sent over. So that's all part of the condo process. And the HOA process, it's much easier because most of the HOAs have a HOA website, and the documents are right there where you can click them on. So that buyer's agent can do that and send all of that to the buyer to look at.
Right. Correct. That's right.
Looks like we got a question. How do you sell a rental that has a tenant? Well,
with difficulty.
It's challenging, but it's doable if you can get a good working relationship with that tenant. If you can get hours that are where the tenant is comfortable, having access to the property, it's really having a conversation with that tenant straight up and letting them know, hey, look, I'm here to work with you. I need to show the property at such and such times. How does that work for you? And just put it out there and commit it to stone, and have a lockbox and have it coded so nobody can just walk in there anytime they feel like it. It's really important to use electronic lockboxes. Don't use those cheapy little combo codes, because once one person has a code, the whole world gets it. So getting back to staging and getting the property ready, it's always good to work with the seller to put away extraneous items. It's very important, especially if you've got clients that are in law enforcement like I do. I don't want their pictures all over the internet with a TPD sheriff's office badge, be it Manatee or Hillsborough or whatever. I don't want people to know where these guys live. Even myself, my address is protected status, and so is theirs. It's confidential. So when you get ready to do a listing and you're representing law enforcement, make sure you get the folio number and you pull up the tax records and put that into .loop because it's going to be hard for title to find it if you don't provide that to them, just to save them some time. But you're not going to see their names. Now, if you have investment properties, your names will show up. The statute doesn't cover that, unfortunately. I wish it would, because I think it's stupid that it doesn't, but that's a whole other argument.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, you help the seller, reorganize with the sellers, maximize the space, make it feel like that hotel fresh, beautiful feeling that you just go, oh, this is mine. Add professional photos. We cannot emphasize this enough. Shannon is outstanding. I've used him for majority of my properties, and I will tell you, it sells faster because he does an amazing job. I know you have plenty of photographers to pick from, but I will tell you, this guy rocks it out. And he takes his time.
And not just the photos, get the 3D photos, you know, where they're going through the house, because remember, we have a ton of people coming from away, right? They're not even, and it really does help sell the property if they can walk through the property with a 3D tour. And Shannon,
we have buyers from all around the world looking at this. And he is also a Zillow qualified, certified photographer. So he has more enhancements than the average photographer does. His drone photography is unbelievable because he really does capture the entire area for you, as well as the essence of the property. It's a beautiful package. He's highly affordable. I just can't say enough good about him. I absolutely love Shannon. I've never had a listing that didn't sell because Shannon does such good work.
Right.
Now comes the fun part. The home is listed. We're in a hot market, right? We are in a hot market. We got deals of multiplying. That's all I'm going to sing.
And the phone is ringing off the hook, and you've told me to get the heck out of the house for a couple days while you show it.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to happen.
That's right. And by making sure that when we present our offers, 1, 2, 3, 4, we send them over to the seller, 1, 2, 3, 4. The seller will make a decision on which one is best for him or her. We do not want to be in the habit of texting the seller. We got this offer, we got this offer, but I like this offer. Don't do it. There's litigation ongoing right now on that very topic. And we're going to keep the names out to protect the innocent. But make sure you document, especially in a market like now, more than ever. And if you're double signing, double document everything. You're going to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4. This came in at 9:05, 9:10, 9:20, 9:30, so forth. And you present them all to your seller, and then you go over them with your seller. By doing that, not only have you documented it, but you've presented yourself in the most highest and ethical light possible, because you're giving them everything in writing. And our listing agreements are very specific. We don't do verbals. Why? Statute of fraud, right, Joe? Can't enforce it. How are you going to chase it down? It's not going to happen. So always in writing. Get out of the habit of texting, all that. Get into the habit of saying, we've received multiple offers. I'm about to scan them over to you for each one that's come in, and let's go over them.
Kat, you're being paid a lot of money. Make an appointment, go sit down with them.
Yes.
You know, that's, I mean, I had that, my multiple offer sheet that I do. When you start getting 10 and 20 offers, for my own sanity, I have to put it on. But I bring all the offers with me, and I sit down and go over with them and what, why these offers are better, why they make more sense. But ultimately, is their decision. That's right. Decision. It's their property.
Let me tell you, so you never know what's really going to go on in a seller's mind. I had a property once that was listed, well, more than once. It sounded kind of silly, but it was a $1 million plus property, and this particular seller insisted he wanted this amount of money. Well, an offer came in cash that was significantly lower, and the buyer's agent said, well, will your seller even entertain this? I said, I present all written offers. So I presented that offer that came through. Guess what? He took it. He needed the cash. There were some things going on I didn't know about. I'm not privy to that. That's his personal life. What if I had said, oh, go pound sand? I'm not going to look at that. That's not my decision. No. I would have ruined that man's life.
Yeah.
This house was a hard house to sell. And it took 2 of us to sell it, but we got it done.
Unfortunately, even though we sit down with them, even if there are past clients and stuff, they don't always tell us their total motivation of why they're selling.
They get embarrassed. Sometimes you're dealing with very proud doctors. Are dealing with very proud surgeons or other professionals, and they're very prideful, and they don't want people to think they're broke and poor. They have a lot of dignity, and they deserve to keep that dignity. That's why, again, you want to make sure you document everything, present all written offers.
Yep.
Unless your seller tells you otherwise, if you're in a written, if there's a writing that says, I only want this and this and this, and they put that into the listing agreement, okay, now you have a little bit of a different story. But I have yet to have a seller tell me, oh no, I don't want to see all offers. They want to see them all. The good, the bad, and the ugly, like the movie. And for listing docs that we've been talking about, this is the link, and you'll get a copy of this at the end of the presentation. Also in your courses, your next level teachable platform. Loop has these docs, and they're all broken down into sections. And this is just to give you an idea. Most of you are familiar with the templates, documents, and you add the people, and your task will pop up. This is just a little bit of a refresher. And the 3 dots that you'll see on the side here is a pull down menu. So if you wanted to add a document or change the name or something, that's what that allows you to do. Just a quick little refresher on Loop. Sellers, where they sign, and signing authority. And as we talked about a little while ago, locate the deed of the county properties appraiser's website, the clerk of court. IMAP is a great way to start because it's a secondary source that pulls from primary sources, and it'll link you automatically to those things. So it's a really wonderful source. I love IMAP. Public records, go to that. If you have any doubt, make sure you talk to listings at C21Be.com. Your title agent is invaluable. You really want to have a good working relationship with your title agent. We talked about how long the houses sit on the market, and it depends on, like we talked about, Joe, the market factors, right?
Right.
Interest rates, property value trends, and home inventory levels. Now, this is an interesting statistic that came out. Profile home buyers, sellers, sold homes are on the market for a median average of 2 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the reports I printed out last month. I mean, our inventory level is only 18 days right now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're a smart realtor, you have your listing on the market for at least 4 days, right? So you can get enough people through it.
Sure.
So, and that's the average. I mean, obviously in the lower ranges, they go faster, and the higher ranges, they take a little longer. So,
correct.
Yep.
Absolutely. And getting back to what Joe was talking about with flood insurance changes, this is the new rate insurance laws that'll be in effect October 1st. This article was published by NAR, Carrie Smith. I just put it in here so you could see where our quotations are coming from. And the increments, we'll go to the next page. When you're doing a listing, you want to make sure that you have your transfer flood insurance documents ready to go, because now, of course, you can transfer October 1 the flood insurance policy. So that's something you want to have ready to go if you're in a flood zone. The AE zone, you'll see that noted. Go to IMAP, of course, too, as well as your FEMA maps.
One thing you want to check too now is if they're by the water, their codes may have changed. So they might have been in X, but now they're AE, and they may not even know that yet.
That's correct. And if you go into IMAP, you scroll to the very bottom, it will show you if there's been any remapping amendments. You'll click it on, it comes right up. And this is just a breakdown of how they are proposing to do the cost. And this is from the Florida Realtors. This just came out day before yesterday. September, it is the season. Travelers are coming. They've opened up. We're going to have more buyers coming in from, I think Jeff talked about this morning. We're having more buyers coming in from Germany, and I believe Spain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're opening up. Yeah, they're opening up travel.
Thank you. That means buyer demand is going to go up. Military relocations are coming again. Parents are going to snatch up homes before, the holidays for November, December. This is going to be a very busy next few months. We got a really great opportunity between now and December to really, really get a lot of homes listed and sold.
Well, you know, Kat, we have that feeding frenzy from April till July with all the parents trying to get their kids into school. Now it's the dinks, right? Double income, no kids. Now they can move. They don't care when they're not tied to a school or a school system. So now they're like, oh, I want to be in before the holidays in my new house. So that's what we're seeing now. And of course, you're probably in Sarasota seeing you've got the snowbirds coming.
Oh, yeah. And more homeschooling. So they need more space. It's been a big reaction to being home now, working from home partners, as well as homeschooling. Now more and more new home sites are going to be in the larger homes. We're seeing more 4, 5, and 6 bedroom homes sell. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. Nobody wanted a home that big. They were all flocking over to the condos and the townhouses and that sort of thing. Well, now with more people working from home and more homeschooling, that extra office is critical for mom, for dad, and for Junior. He needs or she needs one too, plus bedrooms. So it's growing rapidly. And new home sales are finally starting to open up more and more divisions. We've got more home developments here, Tampa, Madeira. We've got new home developments everywhere coming up stronger than ever before. I think we have some questions.
Someone said the Canadians are coming.
Oh, yes, praise God. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, they are. iPhone for pictures is crazy. Oh my gosh, I so agree with you. There's nothing that irritates me more is to see somebody put cheap cell phone pictures in there. If you can't afford the listing, don't take it. Refer it to someone. Let them do a good job,
It's crazy. It boggles my mind that a seller will allow them to do that. That they don't
think they know.
That. Yeah.
I really don't think the seller knows. It's probably an absentee seller that's in another state.
Maybe.
I really don't think they would like it. Somebody asked, how did I protect my address? That works if you are a former state attorney, former public defender, law enforcement, firefighter, judge. You're under the statute.
You have to apply for that. You have to apply for that. It's a form that you have to fill out.
Yes, and certain military classifications as well. DEA, FBI, DOD. And you do apply with the property appraisers. You got to give them 10 ounces of blood. No, I'm just kidding. You go over with a copy of your badge.
You got to give them proof that you are a protected person. Yeah.
Exactly. Just going through.
Yeah, I had an FBI guy once. Had to get him that information. That and Secret Service.
Oh, yeah, no. Now, somebody needs, who do we recommend as an inspector in Polk County? Is the inspector responsible for issues they miss? Polk County, that's a good question. I don't cover that area.
I don't either.
But we can certainly look. And what is that wonderful program we have now that we use for our inspectors? Come on, Joe,
We don't have it yet.
Yeah, but we're getting it.
Oh, okay. Whatever that is.
Move Easy.
Move Easy, yes. I couldn't think of it.
Okay.
The other part of the question is, well, what happens if they miss things? And you need to call. If the inspector missed something dramatic, you need to call. And they're not required to pay for it, but they have to refund their inspection fee to you. And
well, inspector contracts have limited liability. They can't see behind walls. They can't see behind clothes. And most of them do have sculpting clauses that limit their liability to a certain amount. So if it turns out that there's something they did that was considered to be gross negligence, they have a cap of liability usually that they're willing to pay. Now, that being said, if it's something really grotesque, of course, any good lawyer worth their salt can break that cap and file suit. So a lot of times if there's an issue, they're willing to go back and correct it. That's the first step.
If the inspector is fighting you on it, you can go through licensing, through the licensing board. The one I was talking about in Jacksonville where they found the knob and tube wiring, I had them go back to.
We got to wrap this up. I'm so sorry. We just got to notice.
It's 1 o'clock. We are over.
We're over time. Thank you, everyone. We'll send a copy of this presentation to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Like us on Facebook, send us email, and we will respond. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right. Bye.